Hello there, my name is Anthony Barocas for Stream Tech Conversations. Today we're going to talk with Al Abarca, who is in elementary school teaching kids the latest in broadcast technology. Elementary school? Absolutely. Let's talk to Al. Alrighty, Al. Thank you for making the time for me today. I know you've got a busy schedule there. I can see you're still in the school and everything.
We're still in school mode. That's right.
So let's just jump right into that and tell me where you are and what you're doing there with the kids.
All right. So I'm in Pico Rivera, California, and we're at McGee Academy of Arts and Sciences. And this is a TK through fifth grade school, elementary school.
And what are you doing there?
So my official title is the Library Media Tech. So I am in charge of the library, all the over 6,000 books that we have that we check out to students every day. But one of my other jobs that I kind of put upon myself was to do a broadcast for our school community. And I've been doing broadcasts in different schools now for over 20 years in different formats and stuff. So I've been doing it for a while at different schools, but my main job is to be the library media technician at the elementary school here in Pico Rivera.
So because this is a Stream Tech Conversations, we're not really going to talk about books.
That's okay.
But so tell me, this show that you do you do it? Do the kids do it?
That's a good question. I let them know what we're going to be doing, but for the most part, the kids are running everything. They are the video switchers, they're the sound engineers, they're the graphics, they're the anchors, the news, the weather anchors, they run the teleprompts, they do the directing, they do everything.
And
I just sit back and watch.
Do you record this and then make it available, or is this like live into the school?
Yeah, so we did start off live, actually. We started off live on YouTube 5 years ago. Actually, this year is our 5-year anniversary. We did start off live, but because of the restrictions that YouTube has for children, we had to start recording it probably, I want to say it was about a year into the program, into our second year, actually. We had to start recording it and then uploading it onto YouTube for that reason.
So then, what is the delay? Do you basically do it live and then upload it, or is there editing, or what else?
Yeah, no, we do it live and then we upload it. And for the most part, the kids do it one take, that's it. And they're really good with that. But then it depends on how long the show goes or how long the broadcast goes. The way I have it set right now, if we have it over 10 minutes, then I have to put it together just because of, I haven't messed with any of the bit rates or any of that. So I do some editing there. And on the occasion, and I'm going to say occasion because the kids do not mess up a whole lot. On the occasion that they do, then I'll go ahead and do some editing. But for the most part, it's all done live and then uploaded.
And when it comes to the kids knowing this technology, are you basically the technology instructor for all of this broadcast gear, or is there like a separate media class and they're just applying their skills here, or how does that work?
No, I'm the one that teaches them about the switchers, about the sound, how it's connected, especially if they need to troubleshoot it. Early on, I'll help them with the troubleshooting, but later on, like we're in our second semester now, if something goes wrong, I want them to troubleshoot it first. If they can't seem to get it, then I'll go ahead and help them along with it. But for the most part, I teach them at the beginning of the year, or actually right now, we're getting ready to transition into a new group for next year. I'll teach them. The other students will actually train them as well. So it kind of goes, we have our third grade kids that are applying now that will come in at the end of this month and start getting trained by the older kids who have run the program already. So I'll help them along if they need help at that point. But right now, it's just the kids are going to be training each other on how to use the equipment.
Okay, you said third grade. So what is the age range of the kids that you have there?
So right now, it's fourth and fifth graders. But the third graders are applying. The third graders that are going to be fourth graders next year, they're applying to be part of the broadcast team for next year. So next year, I'll have another group of 4th and 5th graders.
And when you say that they're doing this, you're basically saying that 5th graders are literally, they're able to do every aspect of essentially a broadcast production.
Yeah, the 4th and 5th graders they're doing it. We have our weather anchors right now are 4th graders that will be 5th graders next year. Our news anchors are 5th graders who will be going into the middle school next year. So this is their last year. But a lot of the kids are going to be transitioning into our team next year as well. So if they're 4th graders this year, a lot of them applied for next year as well.
So really, it seems like video production and or streaming or broadcast, that's like literacy. It's a new literacy that is pretty common.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because I was looking at your past conversations that you've had with Ms. Mendoza, and I think actually today it was Mr. Dodge. And they both specifically talked about learning and opportunities. And I think the learning aspect of it, that's exactly what they're going through right now. My kids are learning how to use a lot of this equipment that I think Mr. Dodge mentioned, years ago was millions of dollars. But they're using equipment now, it's so much more compact now, a lot cheaper now. But they're using this equipment that they're going to hopefully, if they go on later on, they're going to see some of this equipment later on. But they have it here at an elementary level.
So, okay, we're talking about equipment. Tell me, what are the different brands? What are the kids using?
Okay, so they have the YOLO Pro. So we're using that. We have hold on, let me double check this. Behringer soundboard. It's a 16-channel soundboard. We use probably about 4 or 5 of them for a broadcast. And then we have the Panasonic Lumix cameras. We have 2 of those. And I don't know if you can see it behind me or not, but that's attached to a teleprompter. Newer teleprompter, we have 2 of those as well. So they're using those. MacBook computer for our graphics that's connected through HDMI. And we actually have a couple of those because we run our graphics and our sound or music through MacBooks. So that's the equipment they're using.
Now, I see a blue drape. Are you also doing a key and everything behind them?
We're doing keying for both the weather and the news anchor now. Early on, we didn't do the keying for the news anchor. We just did it for the weather, but we're doing it for both now.
You're probably not doing virtual sets yet, though, right?
Well, kind of. Yeah, we are. I don't know if you can. Well, I can't bring it up here. We do have some virtual sets that we put together.
I think that is, when people see The Mandalorian and they're like, oh, look at these virtual environments that they're in and everything like that. And people think that some people might think that that's far off. You have to be $1 million in order to have a virtual set. But, it really doesn't take a whole lot, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you look behind me, you'll see the anchor desk that's covered in blue. And then above it is a curtain here. But the anchor desk down here, that's covered in blue. And so that's the actual anchor desk that we virtually bring into the production. So yeah, it's our own little virtual set actually is what it is.
And when kids come into this program, are you seeing some literacy already that they're bringing in,
Man, they know all about YouTube. They've seen the influencers. They've seen those guys on YouTube, so they know about the streaming aspect of it. They know YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all those. So they're pretty well versed in what's on it, not necessarily how to create it, but that's where kind of we come in and what we're doing is creating that content.
Now, you say you've been doing this a long while.
Yeah.
In terms of the technology that you're using, I'm sure the technology in the room around you now is very different than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, quite a bit. Early on, when we first started 5 years ago here at McGee, we were using iPhones and we were using Sling Studio. So we were using that and connected to, I want to say it was an iPad for the controls.
Right.
So we used that early on. Before that, when I was at a middle school in Long Beach and an elementary school in Chula Vista, which is near San Diego, we're using Videonics switchers with just little lavalier mics that we had, and it was interesting. We and in San Diego, we were using closed circuit as well as Long Beach. We were going closed circuit because at that point it wasn't even
There wasn't streaming.
Yeah, there was no streaming. So the closed circuit system is what we were using with those schools.
So it sounds like aside from the actual delivery, the process, switching the video, having cameras, mixing audio, having microphones, that really hasn't changed. The tools may have changed a little bit, but the process hasn't changed.
Yeah, the process hasn't really changed a whole lot. I think it's the kids' knowledge of how everything works has changed a lot because, like I said, they're all well versed in YouTube and TikTok and all those medias. So that's changed a lot. But as far as, like you said, the process and what needs to happen throughout a course of a broadcast, that really hasn't changed too much.
How well do the kids take to the structure of a broadcast as we know it versus just making whatever kind of video and uploading it to YouTube? Because, broadcast has a certain, process. This has to happen before that happens, before this happens.
Yeah, it's interesting because they're business. When the director tells them, okay, let's start sound checks, they're business. And it's really interesting to see the looks on their faces when I want to call it their game face. When they get into that mode, it's like, okay, we're done playing around, let's go. So it's a really good thing to see, especially once you set that structure for them at the beginning of the year, or even during training, like we're going to start here pretty soon. You set that structure for them and they know exactly what's expected of them. And once that happens, like I said, they get their game faces on and they're on it. So that's a really fun process to see.
And in terms of dealing with kids, do you find them seeing the access to technology and then either having different ideas about how they could leverage it, sort of like coming at it from a different viewpoint? Like, it's like, well, this is how we do this. And then somebody says, well, could we try it this way?
Oh, they're telling me that all the time. Hey, Mr. Abarca, I know we have it this way, but can I try it this way? I'm like, do it. That's my thing. Even during this point in time where we're starting to train kids, I want them to come in and I want them to use the equipment and I want them to, in my words, play with it. And if they find a better way to do something than what I'm asking them to do, then I'm good with it. Let them create that, because I want them to create it. It's not something that I want to tell them how to do. I can give them direction, but once they get the gist of it and how everything works, if they want to change something up and it's not impeding on what we're trying to do, I'm like, go for it. You guys run it. So have fun.
Now, you mentioned the YOLO box, and that's one of the more recent all-in-one type of solutions, and it can do so much that it sort of replaces a bunch of other tools.
Yeah.
So you almost don't need to have an audio mixer or a separate graphics or things like that yet. The way you described it, it sounds like you still have those roles separated out.
Yeah, I've looked at that, and I think especially for this age, they're not really ready to do that whole multitasking, which is fine. I also want to be able to include more kids and more students in the production of it. So if I just isolate the video switching and the sound, I think it's a lot better for them because they're able to participate, one, but they're also learning another skill. It's not just the one video switcher with all of the sound and everything. They're mixing on an actual soundboard. They're video switching on the video switcher. They're doing graphics on the computer. It's not something that's entered on the SD card and they can go to it. They're doing all that on separate pieces, and it gives more kids an opportunity to participate.
How many kids are we talking about in a broadcast?
In an actual broadcast, we have, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, probably about 10 to 11 in actual broadcast. I have a total of about 25 on my team, and they switch weeks. So I have a team A going one week, and then the team B will be going the next week, and they just rotate. And then that way, I don't want them to get burned out by the end of the year. So then that way they're able to just rotate in and out and not get burned out of doing, their jobs all year long.
Do you also rotate them through the different roles?
I do if they want to rotate. I don't want to push them into doing something that they don't want to do or something that they're not feeling comfortable doing. So if somebody comes to me at the beginning of the year and says, I want to do the sound, okay, cool, let's learn how to do that. But then they come to me at the middle of the year and say, can I try video switching? Okay, let's go ahead and train you on it first with somebody that's been on it all year long, and then let's go from there and see how you do with it. So yeah, I don't have a problem training or doing that.
Because I actually, my background, I actually graduated with a film and video degree. And as part of that, I took a studio course. And, when the teacher who was teaching the studio course it was like, okay, you're going to, camera this, that, the other. And then, 2 weeks later, okay, audio, video. And you're forced to learn all the different roles in the studio, which really does help play. Because then if you're in the studio, you understand about the audio mixing that's in the control room. And if you're moving the camera, then you understand, oh, well, he's going to want to switch the camera and he's going to want this, you start to understand it from other viewpoints.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of how I go about picking my directors for the year. If I've seen that they've shown interest or have switched to different positions throughout the year before, then that fifth grader or that person going into fifth grade, that's going to be my director. Because they know the different jobs and the different aspects and what needs to be done with all those different jobs. So that's usually how I go about picking my directors for the year.
And, I'll just, having worked in broadcast as well, I'll commend you on the concept of keeping things separate, because even though there are all-in-one solutions, which makes things convenient for solopreneurs and small production, if you get into a larger production, let's just say NFL or something like that, all those tasks are broken out again.
They're all separate, yeah.
Yeah, so, there's an audio truck, there's a graphics truck, there's, the camera switching truck, and they're all connected, and the data flows around between them, but there's somebody just in charge of replays, there's somebody just in charge of playbacks, so.
And I had my students actually watch the part of the video with Miss Mendoza that you had a couple weeks ago, and she kind of broke some of that stuff down. I said, this is why you guys do the jobs that you do. And because they've all seen the switcher, and they said, well, it has a sound on it. It has this, it has that. And when I showed them the video of Miss Mendoza, they're like, oh, okay, I think we kind of got that now. I think we understand where that method is coming from.
And there's a video that I like to show that I've shown a couple times. It is the control room for the Oscars. Yeah. And I don't know if you've seen it. It's the one where Cuba Gooding Jr. wins. And, and you see the director, he's not touching anything. He's not also the technical director. He's just calling and go to 2 and ready 3 and everything. And then Cuba Gooding Jr., he goes up there and he starts to say thank you and everything. And he's like, and go music. And then Cuba Gooding Jr. doesn't shut up. He just keeps going. And everybody sort of gets into it, like the audience gets into it, so the director gets into it, and he's like, 5! Keep going! And he's calling more cameras, and he's cutting faster and faster and faster, and finally, Cuba finishes his speech, walks off, and the director, he says, go announcer! Go commercial!
Yeah. No, those are great. And those are great teaching tools. Those are awesome teaching tools.
They are, because, you think about it, and it's like, I've had people ask, well, how many cameras do I need to shoot sports? And I'm like, how many cameras do you want? And you have to think about when you've watched sports, because that's the nice thing is there's recordings and video of everything, right?
Yeah.
So we can say, well, okay, let's watch this soccer game. Okay, they've got a net cam. They've got this net cam. They've got a camera on the field. They've got a camera high up. They've got a wide camera. So we're talking, that's 5 already. And, then you can get into other, they've got an interview camera on the side. That's 6, but you don't see it until they use it,
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the same thing with YOLO Box. And I know you've talked about it before. How many different shots can you make within a YOLO Box? I mean, we have maybe 3 different shots just for our news anchor, because we put a side by side. We'll put the green screen and back. So there's different things that we use for our news anchor. So there's 3 different shots that they use on a daily basis. So it's, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of different things that we can do with that.
I think that is something that, a lot of people who are getting into streaming might not realize that, there's different ways to handle the same thing. It's like, well, I just don't want to be another talking head.
Yeah.
It's only as limited as what you're thinking of. If you want to think of something really cool and have the background behind you change, or, be in a virtual environment or things like that, it's, like you says, if the kids have this cool idea, let's try it out.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that's the only way that they're going to learn by listening to the teacher, by reading the books, but they're also going to learn by doing. So that's a big thing with me is let's do it. Just go for it.
Then do you have you had an incidence where something has been tried and failed?
Oh, all the time. Oh yeah. Yeah. But those again, and, because we're in a school setting, it's one of those, okay, we tried it. It didn't work, but now you know that it's not going to work. So let's try something else. And you hear it all the time. You're going to learn by your failures, and you just, all right, let's make it better. Let's see what we can do.
Like, for example, like what was something that, was somebody says, I think this is going to work, and it didn't work out as expected?
A two cameras on the anchor where the anchor's facing forward, and then all of a sudden you have them turn sideways to the other camera and look at that camera to do their news. Well, it's good in theory, but then if you don't have a teleprompt set up on the second camera, they're not going to know how to read it. They're not going to know what to read because the words aren't there for them. So, that didn't really work. And I had the idea that it probably wasn't going to work, but the kids wanted to do it because they saw it on the news. I'm like, cool, let's do it. And so the minute that they realized, oh, the teleprompt's not there anymore, like, oh, okay, yeah, guess we can't do that anymore. So let's just stick to what we have.
Do you do live? Do you do like complete run-throughs and rehearsals where that's figured out, or does that happen when it was actually live?
No, that one it was kind of interesting because, like I said, I kind of had an idea as to what might have would happen. So I just said, let's run through it and let's make sure we have it right, especially with something like that they're trying for the first time. So let's just run through it. And then at that point, they realize, yeah, that's not going to work. So, yeah. So the things like that will run through. But for the most part, if we've done it over and over again, then, we're good to go.
And it's interesting how well kids take to this new technology, consuming it is one thing, so like we all consume books and written stuff, but that doesn't make us all writers.
Right.
But, it's amazing in terms of video technology how well some kids really take to crafting something.
Yeah, well, and I think at this point in their lives, when they see all these content creators, they want to be one. And so whether it's in front of the camera or behind the scenes, they want to do something. And so that's what they're thinking coming in. I want to do something. I want to create something, and that's what they're doing. And so when they come in here and you talk about that, it's their mindset is we're content creators. We are creating stuff for our school community, and that's what we're going to do.
And I think kids today are I would say they have an added advantage in that. You come a decade ago or further, like when YouTube was starting out, there was the official media, broadcast and cable and stuff like that. And then there was this other stuff.
Yeah.
And it had a whole different, you can play around on YouTube, but this is what it is. Yeah. And now we've come, we've circled back around where it's sort of like there's YouTubers who are massively successful, and they have never broadcast, never done anything cable, nothing. YouTube and even streaming without YouTube. People have their own like live streaming direct to Roku channels that they don't YouTube and they don't broadcast. It's this. You find their channel on their website, load it onto your Roku, and you're in.
Oh yeah, no, we're looking at people that have millions and millions of subscribers, and that's what the kids are watching. They're watching all that different content. And ours is very small because it goes just to a specific community. But I'm happy with the 625 subscribers we have right now, because I know they're getting that content. But when you're talking about millions of subscribers for different programming, on YouTube alone, it just amazes me how many people are subscribed to different things. And I see it all the time when my son's watching stuff on YouTube. Like, wow, how did they get that many people? It's just amazing.
Yeah, it takes time. Like I watch Linus Tech Tips.
Mm-hmm.
He reviews fast gaming computers and things like that.
Yeah.
But you go back all the way to the beginning, he's just this kid reviewing stuff on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't really a thing. And now it's the Linus Media Group.
Right.
With multiple channels, they make their own products, they develop, tools, they've got clothing, and it's a conglomerate now. It's a whole legit business.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible what they've done. I mean, even our broadcast 5 years ago here at McGee started off with just a plain background with books in the background and just maybe a bunch of butcher paper in the background, to where now we've got, we're keying things in, it's just crazy. It's amazing what we've been able to do the past 5 years. And it's a lot of support from the admin here at our school that have given us the support and what we need to do. And just a whole lot of, go for it. Go and do it. So it's been really helpful.
And when you say a whole lot of go for it, I think that's kind of key, because I think today somebody can look at, like me, somebody can look and say, oh, well, there's these big channels out there already. I can't do that. And I think the answer to that is no, you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
You're going to start here, and you'll grow.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what it takes. I mean, you're never going to start off with 1 million subscribers right away. And I mean, I would love to get to 1,000 subscribers, but like I said, I'm happy with my 625 that I have right now, because I know that those are the people within our school community that are getting the messages that we're sending out. I mean, if I want, the rest of the district, it'd be great if I could, do something with them as well. And hopefully at some point within the next couple of years, we'll be able to do that and center it here at McGee. But for now, getting that content out to just our school community is huge for us to be able to do.
So what advice would you give to other educators who have a program or looking to upgrade a program or push their program forward?
Don't be afraid to ask. So, all admin can do is say no, which I don't get a whole lot of no's from my admin. I'll be honest with you. They're very supportive. I just try it. Early on, when we first started, I had a lot of the equipment that we used, but I remember telling my principal, hey, I want to start this. She's like, okay, go ahead. She didn't have the equipment. She didn't even know what I was talking about, because nothing like that's been done here within our district at an elementary level. So I brought in a lot of equipment that I had at home, and we started it, and it was like, oh, okay, he was serious. Yeah, he really wanted to do that. So, we started it, and 5 years later, here we are, and I'm talking to you 5 years later, and, just trying to grow this. It's a great tool of communication. You talk about tools all the time. It's a great tool, communication for the community. And, hopefully a lot of times they get it, whether I send it out on YouTube or I send the link on Instagram or X, I try and send those links out as well, so it reaches a lot of different people.
Do you also do what they call amplification? So, do the kids also share the content that they're creating?
No,
they're probably a little young to be on all that media, but
yeah, I try to stay. I've seen some of that before, and I think it's probably better for middle school and high school. Elementary school, I honestly, if they're not being supervised, I really don't want them on it to begin with. And we've talked about that. We talk about that whole process of social media within the group as well. and how you need to be careful, and just those types of things with social media. We go over a lot of that as well.
Yeah, as I was asking the question, I was like, probably not. But but other teachers, could do it. Other administrators and stuff like that. And I think, you've got a good idea in terms of like, coordinating among other people within the district as well. I mean, I have a friend of mine who is actually an educator and does the media as well. And, the school is involved in things like that. And, initially there was, he needed to do some fundraising because the cameras they had were like these old, little video cameras. They weren't really well suited and stuff like that. They had composite output and things like that. So he needed to do something. And he says, well, let's hold a fundraiser. Whoever raises the most money, I'll shave my beard or shave my head or whatever it was. And that kind of grew because then it reached parents and it kind of got a little big. And then there was this big donor and it says, what do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want to have in the classroom?
Yep. And we're in the process of that right now, actually. We have a company right now that I've talked to, and they're willing to donate some equipment for us. And it's just a matter of asking. I said it earlier. All you can do is ask. And if they say no, okay, thank you, appreciate it. But if they say yes, then okay, what do you need? I'm like, here's my list. I always have that list available. But yeah, there's a couple people that I've asked, and they're like, yeah, okay, what do you need? I show them the broadcast. Send them the link to our homepage on YouTube, and they check it out, and it's just it happens. It happens.
And there's a lot of resources that people might not even think of because, bigger companies will have in-house AV. And as they upgrade, older equipment moves out. Churches and, faith-based, media, they're always upgrading, and older equipment, can be passed down. And when I say older equipment, it could just be like 5 years old, but to a school that doesn't have anything, it's like, oh, please.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I talk about support. Like I said, I had the Sling Studio before for about 3 years, and I think I used it all through COVID. And then when we got back, I'm like, I'm going to need some equipment because I know this is going to start going down here pretty soon. And sure enough, I asked my principal, and she's like, yeah, sure. What do you need? And I told her why, had a nice little presentation for her, don't just go in, I want this. Need to have the reasons as to why you're going to need it. And she's like, okay, let's make it happen. And that's how we got the Pro, the Yellow Box Pro.
And in terms of the kids, what do you see, like what kind of ripple effect do you see within the school with the kids that are in the media class?
So it's interesting because I try to pick a lot of different types of students. You have the students that are always going to excel. They're always going to be above average. And so I'll pick a little bit of them, but I also want some of those kids that are average, that are borderline average, maybe a little bit below. Those are the kids that need to be lifted up. And a lot of times you see those kids, and that's all they need is just a little bit of that positive attention. And that's kind of what moves them up. And and I actually had a conversation with a teacher about that today. I said, hey, how's this student doing? Oh, he's gotten a lot better this year. I said, all right, I want him for my broadcast next year. And he's like, that would be awesome. And it's just that little thing that just kind of pushes them up a little bit that sometimes they need. And they need to be part of something positive. And I'm hoping that's what I give them when they come into the broadcast team.
I never really anticipated that, but it makes perfect sense because you never know what, a child having something that they can believe in. Yeah. They may be in class and it's just all this stuff is being pushed on me. I'm not pushing anything out. Yeah. And here you come into a media class and it says, okay, what can you give me?
Yeah. Now I do want to say though that there are expectations of all those students that are in the broadcast team that they have to keep their grades up. They have to keep turning in their homework. They have to have really good citizenship. If they're goofing around in class, if they're not getting their work done, if they're not doing well on their tests, at that point, if I hear back from a teacher and that teacher tells me, hey, we're having an issue, I'll talk to that student. And if nothing happens and they continue, I've done it before. Hey guys, you're going to have to be out of the broadcast team for a little while until I can see an improvement. So that's part of an agreement that they literally have to sign on at the beginning of the year to state that they're going to have a good year and there's not going to be any issues. If not, then we're going to have to kind of move them out for a little bit.
So it's kind of like a carrot.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a big incentive for them. But like I said, the above average students, of course, they don't have an issue with it. But when you see those middle of the line kids start moving up and doing well in class, and having good days in class and having good days at school when they didn't really used to have those kind of days, you're doing something. And keep that communication with the teachers as well. That's huge.
And following that up in communication with the teachers, how do you find the students? Is it all students that choose to be in, or do you get teachers recommending, or parents, or do you do outreach, or how does all that work?
So actually, we're in the process of that right now. The kids that are interested, I let their teachers know, here's the application form. It's online. It's a Google document. The kids have to fill out the application. I have all the job titles and everything on this application. They pick 3 that they want to do, that they're interested in doing, and they fill out the application, and they also need to get 2 teacher recommendation forms filled out by their teacher. And if that whole process is done, then I'll go forward with that and decide where they're going to go based on what they chose. But I also weigh heavily on the teacher recommendation form. So if they're really far below and I talk to the teacher and say, hey, is it possible? And the teacher says, I don't know if it's really possible right now because they're so far behind. Then at that point, I'll talk to that student and say, I really want you on the broadcast team this year or next year, but you're not quite there yet. If you continue to work hard throughout the first half of the year, come back and talk to me and we'll see what we have for you and we'll put you on the broadcast team. But I need to see you do the work that you need to get done first before I can add you on there.
Right. Get the main work done before I give you more work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there is an application process that they have to go through. Application. And then if they're want to be a reporter or in a news anchor or a weather anchor, I do have them audition and actually read off the teleprompt and see how they do with their reading as well. And that was that actually happened today behind me. They actually did their auditions today. And
how many applicants do you get for how many roles?
Yeah, so I want to say there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's probably about 7 or 8 different roles. Last year, I got about 50 applicants.
Wow.
This year was down to about 30. But and that's it's a tough position to be in, having to pick, some of the kids, but I have to base it on teacher recommendations and base it on their applications and how they're doing in school. So it's a tough process, but they know what the process is going to be.
Right. And I guess it sort of educates them in the other aspects of the business. You may want to be, on this particular job or this particular gig, and you may not be selected.
Right. That too, yeah. But it also, they have to fill out an application. I mean, anytime you apply for a job, you've got to fill out an application, and you have to go through interviews and possibly
and have
auditions.
References.
Yeah, and have references, exactly. So, that part of it. Whenever I tell people that aren't familiar with it what we do and how we go about the process, like, oh, wow, okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's all of a sudden it's like adulting.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
You have to put in your application, put in your time, show the effort, come in, audition.
Yep, that's right.
So as we're wrapping up, I just want to find out, in terms of where you are now and where you want to go, where would you like to see your program in a few years?
So I kind of touched on it a little bit. I really want to do something district-wide, but center it here at McGee. So where schools will tell us about their different events that they've had, shoot videos, send it over to us, and then our students, our anchors, and our team here will report on the district happenings. So long term, I would say within the next couple of years, I'm hoping to get something like that going, and just being able to reach out to a bigger community, not just our own McGee community. And we'll still do our own broadcast here for our own McGee community, but also maybe once a month or twice a month, do it for the district as well.
So you're talking additional programming.
I'm talking additional programming, yes. More content. How's that?
Well, as you said, we're all content creators.
Yeah.
So yep. I think that's a very ambitious goal, and I wish you luck in that goal.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I love watching the work that you're doing. The interviews that you have had, over the past few weeks have been incredible, and the people that you've had have been so educational for me, and to watch them. So I appreciate what you're doing and what you've done in the past. My kids have watched your videos to train on a lot of this equipment. So they've watched a lot of your content as well, and you've been awesome, and I love what you're doing.
Well, I thank you very much again for the compliments and for being on today's show.
All right. Thank you, Anthony.
Well, I want to thank Al again for a great conversation. It really is amazing that these kids today are developing such incredible skills at such an early age. But like reading and writing, I think video communication skills are essential today, especially when anyone can be their own channel. My name is Anthony Barocas for Stream Tech Conversations. Thanks for watching.